Brenda stormed into our yard with two fake cops, grabbing my deaf daughter's arms so hard her shirt ripped. They mocked her, broke her tablet, and threatened her service dog. They had no idea I was a disability rights lawyer. Their smiles vanished when I stepped outside. Before watching full video, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. Turn that thing off right now. It's disturbing the entire neighborhood. The harsh voice cut through our peaceful Saturday afternoon like an explosion. I was working on a case in my home office when I heard the angry shouting from our backyard. I rushed to the window and felt my blood boil at what I saw. My 16-year-old daughter Emily, who was born completely deaf and had a cochlear implant, was sitting on our patio with her therapy dog Rex. She was practicing her sign language with a visual learning app on her tablet while Rex lay protectively by her side. 3 adults were standing over her: Brenda Miller, the power-hungry president of our neighborhood HOA, and 2 large men wearing what appeared to be police uniforms with shiny badges. I said, "Turn it off." Brenda screamed, her face red with anger. Emily, who couldn't hear the woman's shouting, looked up in confusion, trying to read Brenda's lips. "I think she can't hear you," one of the fake officers said with a smirk. "These special needs kids never listen." Without warning, the second man reached down and snatched Emily's tablet from her hands. Startled, Emily jumped up and reached for her device, but the man held it high above her head. "Please," Emily said, her speech slightly unclear as it often was for those born deaf. "That's my special." "Special or not, you're violating HOA noise regulations," Brenda snapped, stepping closer to my terrified daughter. "Your weird noises and that machine are disturbing everyone trying to enjoy their Saturday." Emily's weird noises were simply her practicing her speech therapy exercises. Her app wasn't even playing sound, it was showing sign language videos she was copying. Rex, sensing Emily's distress, stood up and positioned himself between Emily and the intruders, his ears alert but not barking. The first fake officer pulled out what looked like a police baton. "Control your animal or I'll have to take measures," he threatened, poking the baton toward Rex. Emily, not understanding all that was being said but recognizing the threat to her beloved therapy dog, tried to sign stop and please, while speaking in her distinctive voice. "He helps me." "Service dog." "I don't care what kind of dog it is," Brenda said with disgust. "The HOA has rules against unauthorized animals in visible areas. And your weird hand motions are making the neighbors uncomfortable." The second fake officer, still holding Emily's tablet, suddenly dropped it onto the concrete patio. The screen shattered instantly, pieces scattering across the ground. Emily cried out in distress, a sound that seemed to further irritate Brenda. "Stop making those noises," Brenda demanded. "This is a respectable neighborhood." When Emily knelt to pick up the pieces of her broken tablet, the first officer roughly grabbed her arm and yanked her back up. "This is an official citation for violating HOA Code 8.4, creating disturbing noises and visual disturbances in common view areas," he said, pulling out an official-looking document. "We're authorized to issue a $750 fine, effective immediately." Emily, unable to hear but trying desperately to understand what was happening, looked around frantically for any sign of help. Tears streamed down her face as she tried to communicate through her limited speech and sign language, which only angered Brenda more. "Stop that hand flapping," Brenda ordered. "It's exactly this kind of bizarre behavior that lowers property values." The second officer pulled out handcuffs. "If you continue to resist, we're authorized to take you in for questioning." I'd seen enough. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and burst through the back door. "Take your hands off my daughter right now," I roared, charging across the yard. The trio turned, momentarily startled by my sudden appearance. "Mr. Harrison," Brenda recovered quickly, placing her hands on her hips. "Your daughter is violating multiple HOA regulations with her disruptive behavior. These officers are here to—" "Those men are not police officers," I interrupted, positioning myself between them and Emily. "And you are all trespassing on private property and assaulting a disabled minor." "We have every right," the taller fake cop began. "You have no rights here," I cut him off, keeping my phone recording everything as I checked on Emily. "I am Michael Harrison, senior partner at Harrison and Reynolds Law, specializing in disability discrimination and ADA compliance. And you just committed multiple felonies on camera." The color drained from Brenda's face, but she attempted to maintain her authority. "These officers have badges. They're authorized by the HOA to enforce." "To enforce what exactly? Terrorizing a deaf child? Destroying adaptive technology? Threatening a registered service animal?" Impersonating police officers. I signed to Emily that she was safe while keeping my phone aimed at the intruders. Every single one of those actions is a serious crime. I looked at Emily's arm, which already showed red marks where the man had grabbed her. I signed quickly, asking if she was hurt, and she nodded, tears still flowing. She assaulted an officer, the man with the handcuffs claimed. First, you're not an officer. That badge is fake, and impersonating law enforcement is a felony, I said coldly. Second, my daughter is deaf. She was trying to communicate in sign language, which is her legal right under the Americans with Disabilities Act. I pointed to the service dog vest Rex was wearing. And that is a registered therapy dog for a person with a disability. Threatening or interfering with a service animal is another federal offense. The fake officers exchanged nervous glances. The one who had broken the tablet shifted uncomfortably. We were just doing what Mrs. Miller paid us to do, he admitted. I made sure my phone recorded that confession clearly. Did you hear that, Brenda? Your hired imposters just implicated you in conspiracy to commit multiple felonies, I said. You have exactly 30 seconds to get off my property before I call the real police. This is HOA business, Brenda insisted, though her voice had lost its edge. Her strange noises and hand movements are disturbing the neighborhood. My daughter is deaf, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. Those strange noises are her learning to speak without being able to hear herself. Those hand movements are American Sign Language, her constitutional right to communication. I stepped closer to Brenda. What you're doing violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, and about a dozen state laws I've personally helped write. The shorter fake officer tugged at his partner's sleeve. Let's go, man. This isn't worth it. As they retreated, Brenda turned at the gate. This isn't over, Harrison. The HOA board will. The board will be receiving my lawsuit first thing Monday morning, along with this video, I interrupted. And copies go to the district attorney, who happens to be my former law school roommate. After they left, I knelt beside Emily, who collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Her expensive tablet, a special adaptive device with sign language and speech therapy apps, lay shattered on the ground. Rex pressed against her side, trying to provide comfort. I signed to her that I was sorry and promised they would never hurt her again. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes and signed, "Why do they hate me, Dad? Because I can't hear?" Her question broke my heart and steeled my resolve. This wasn't just about HOA rules anymore. This was about my daughter's right to exist in the world without persecution. Some people fear what they don't understand, I signed back. But they're about to learn a very important lesson about respect and compassion. That evening I made 3 strategic moves. First, I contacted Judge Williams, who had presided over several of my disability rights cases, requesting an emergency restraining order against Brenda Miller and her hired thugs. She granted it immediately after viewing the video. Second, I called Captain Rodriguez at the police department, who dispatched officers to take statements and photograph Emily's injuries. The officers were especially disturbed by the impersonation of police and the targeting of a disabled minor. Third, I contacted Maria Patel, an investigative reporter who specialized in disability rights stories. I have video of HOA officials hiring fake cops to harass a deaf child, was all I needed to say. By morning my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The local news had already picked up the story, HOA president hires fake police to harass deaf teenager. And reporters were gathering outside our neighborhood gates. The real police had arrested both fake officers, who quickly confessed that Brenda had hired them from a security company, provided fake badges, and instructed them to frighten the weird girl into compliance. The most satisfying call came from the HOA board's attorney, practically begging for a meeting. "Mr. Harrison, the board had no knowledge of Mrs. Miller's actions," the attorney insisted, sweating profusely in my office. "We're horrified and want to resolve this matter quickly." "Resolve it?" I repeated, sliding a folder across my desk. "Here are 5 previous complaints against Brenda for discriminatory enforcement of HOA rules, specifically targeting residents with disabilities. The board received every one of these complaints and took no action." He loosened his tie. "We may have been negligent in our oversight." "Criminally negligent," I corrected. "And now my daughter is terrified to go into our own backyard. Her therapy has been set back months." "What do you want?" he asked bluntly. I slid over a second folder. "My terms are non-negotiable." He paled as he read through them. "This is excessive. Traumatizing a deaf child and destroying her adaptive technology is excessive," I replied coldly. You have 24 hours to accept, or we proceed to court. And I never lose disability discrimination cases. The settlement transformed our community. The entire HOA board was dissolved and reconstituted with new bylaws I personally drafted, including mandatory representation from residents with disabilities. Brenda was permanently banned from holding any HOA position and required to complete 500 hours of community service at the state school for the deaf. The financial settlement funded a state-of-the-art accessible communication center in our community center, named Emily's Place, which provided resources and technology for people with hearing impairments. Most importantly, a portion was set aside for Emily's ongoing therapy and future education. The two fake officers faced criminal charges for impersonation and assault, but I advocated for reduced sentences in exchange for their community service at disability organizations and their damning testimony against Brenda, who ultimately faced the most severe consequences, including criminal charges for conspiracy and discrimination. 6 months later, I stood with Emily at the grand opening of Emily's Place. Dozens of deaf and hard of hearing individuals filled the space, using the latest communication technology without fear of judgment. Local media covered the event, with sign language interpreters prominently featured on every broadcast. "You turned something terrible into something beautiful, Dad," Emily signed, looking around at the specialized equipment and smiling faces. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Former HOA president pleads guilty to civil rights violations, sentenced to 2 years plus community service at school for the deaf. I showed Emily the headline, and for the first time in months she genuinely smiled. "The best revenge isn't just winning in court," I signed to her. "It's creating something good from something bad." Around us, the sound of laughter and signing filled the center as people who had previously been marginalized found their voices through technology and community. On the wall, a mural spelled out the center's motto, words Emily had chosen herself: "Our differences are our strength." Standing there, watching my brave daughter help younger deaf children with the new communication devices, I knew we had turned a moment of darkness into a lifetime of light for countless families. That was justice far sweeter than any courtroom victory could provide.